hiring. I'm Councilmember McCosker. I have Councilmember Hugo Martinez with me. I've already taken all the excitement out of it, but I will ask for a roll call.
Very well. Councilmember McCosker.
Here.
Councilmember Padilla. Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Here. Okay, how's that? Is that better? And we will note that we are just getting started, and Councilmember Padilla is here. We have a full team for this agenda. So we have 13 items on the agenda. I'm going to recommend that we take items 1 through 9 and 11 and 12 on consent. And that would mean that items 10 and 13 would be for discussion this morning. I believe we're ready for public comment, for general comment. Can you read the rules into the record?
Yes, very well. People who wish to give public comment will be given 1 minute per item, up to a maximum of 2 minutes. Additionally, 1 minute for general public comment. If you wish to speak, there is a kiosk in the corner there for electronic registration. One of the Sergeant Arms can help you with that. And that is pretty much it. So maximum of 3 minutes.
Thank you. So we have one speaker who signed up, Naresh. I apologize if I have it wrong. Are you here to speak? Going once, going twice. Any other speakers that did not have a chance to sign up? Hearing none, then I'll close public comment. Very good. So now I will ask if any of my colleagues want to pull items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, or 12 off of the consent agenda.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, just for the record, 1 is for re-exemption, 2 is for exemption, 3 is for exemption, 4 is for exemption, 5 CIO recommendations to be approved, 6 is approve the LA DWP recommendations, 7 is to approve, again, the LA DWP recommendations, 8 is also LA DWP recommendations. They're on a roll. 9, note and file the CIO report. 11 is note and file the CIO report, as is 12, note and file CIO report. Thank you very much. Can you call the roll on those items?
Very good. Councilmember McCosker.
Yes.
Councilmember Padilla.
Yes.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you very much. So now we're to our discussion items. Item number 10. Mr. Clerk, can you read the item into the record?
Yes. Personnel Department and Board of Police Commissioners reports relative to Communications Division staffing levels, call load, and recruitment.
Thank you. I think we have personnel and LAPD here. Can you come to the table for the individuals ready to present briefly on that issue before we get to discussion and questions? Why don't you identify yourselves for the record and then jump right into it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Aaron McCraney, and I'm the Assistant General Manager for Public Safety for Personnel Department. And with me also I have Melissa Hamamoto, who's the Chief Personnel Analyst over Public Safety Division. Ray.
Good morning. Captain Ray Valois, I'm the Commanding Officer of LAPD Communications Division.
Thank you very much. Can you give us a brief report?
Sure. So we're here today regarding Council File 23-0255, and that's regarding the hiring process for police service. The direction of this report asks for us to look at certain areas. Those areas were the number of hiring tests offered in the last year, the communication and operations related to that, the number of applicants participating in testing process, passed the test, and hired, the potential to modernize the testing process, the average timeline for police service representatives, and then also talk about police service representatives that pursue promotional opportunities. So this is something that we are keenly aware of the concerns. We recognize that these are very challenging times when it comes to hiring police service representatives, and we have taken specific measures to help to address the shortage of personnel. There were very specific questions that were asked regarding numbers, and we submitted those numbers in the report. We are available to address any questions or concerns that you may have regarding those numbers or any other aspect of hiring the PSRs.
Okay. Anything to
In regards to the LAPD portion of the report, there were some specific statistics asked for. In 2022, Communications Division received 3,728,131 calls for service. Of those calls, when a PSR is working, each PSR handles approximately 72 calls during their 8-hour shift when they're on the phones. There is a state goal to answer the 911 emergency calls of 90% of those calls within 15 seconds. In May of 2023, Communications Division answered approximately 41% within 15 seconds. However, by moving some people around, adjusting schedules, bringing some PSRs back to the floor, in September of 2023, we were able to move that answer rate from that 41% up to 61% for September. Except it was accomplished in several different ways by adjusting deployments or employees' working hours, and so they're there during peak times, returning officers to the floor. One of the major things we've done is pre-scheduling overtime versus holding PSRs over at the last minute, which has a huge effect on their morale, makes them want to be there and work harder, and that's been very effective. As of October 22nd, end of October, Communication Division had 188 civilian vacancies. Of those, 181 of those vacancies were PSRs.
Wow.
And that's where we stand.
Thanks
We
very
did
much.
have a class that started yesterday of 9.
What's an ideal class number? When you said
30.
9, 30 is an ideal number.
I can do as many as 2 classes of 30 at one time.
And how does 9 compare to the last several classes?
I believe the previous class in June, which was before I got to communications, was 12. And then there was one, I believe, back in January of 8.
I know that the mayor and Public Works and my office and other offices are having the job fairs. Are we focusing on PSRs when we conduct our job fairs?
That may be a question better answered by personnel department, since I'm running the operational portion of it. Anytime there is a job fair, if there is a request for PSRs to go to present, absolutely, I'll fulfill that request. Up until recently, I had a community relations unit of 2 PSRs and 1 supervisor. However, I needed to bring those PSRs back to the floor to answer 911 calls.
So part of our plan, what we've done is that we have increased our marketing efforts when it comes to PSRs. We have added more social media outreach to bring interest to the class. Additionally, we have partnered with LAPD on certain occasions where they have sworn job fairs that now we're asking for communications to present PSRs also, to those events to help out to improve in that area.
And yes, Communication Division's PSR have been showing to the career fairs. The most recent one is at Council District 1. Because the requirements have been changed recently, Personnel Department was able to direct people looking for work with less qualifications to the PSR desk, and they can apply right then and there.
So tell me a little bit about that. We eliminated some of the minimum requirements. We modified the minimum requirements. Can you describe that briefly and tell us what you think that does to A, the quality of applicants, and B, to the number of applicants?
Sure. Previously, the requirements, in addition to taking the post test, was to provide a typing certification and go through a pre-background questionnaire. The typing certification and pre-background questionnaire has been removed, so they're only required to apply, and within a month they will be taking a post test. And what it does is we increase the number of applications significantly. One of the first iteration of the exam, we received almost 900 applications. Not all of them test, but it does put the word out there that they can apply, and then within a month they take the test.
So what is the the logical disconnect in my mind, I'm sure you can solve this, between 900 applications and 9 people in a current class. What's happening?
A lot of them, it's possible that because of the very minimum requirements, it's very easy to apply, and being a 911 dispatcher may not be their first priority, the first job option that they'd like. So by the time the test comes around, they may no longer be interested. But we do still receive a lot more people who come into the testing process. And from there, not all pass. Not
Yeah.
all pass the test. And those who pass don't always move forward to the interview process. But those who pass the interview or move forward to the interview process usually end up in the eligible list.
So on the theory, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, an example of that is illustrated in the report is that of the 392, so we have the 900, for example, that do apply, but actually only 392 actually submitted in the application. And from that point, it just whittles down from there. And again, we think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have many people that apply for the job that either A, aren't necessarily qualified, or B, don't have the interest really specifically for PSR, and then end up just falling off the system.
On the okay, so I get that some folks might not have the qualifications or the interest, but one of the other theories I think can be proven by statistics is that the amount of time that it takes to get through the system also affects this. And we live in a world where the best job is the one that makes you the offer. How do we shorten the time from application through qualification to job offer for PSRs? Because again, the best job is the one that makes you an offer.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're working with BIDL. We're working with a contractor to transition from a post test, which is a paper and pencil test, to a digital one. It's not finalized yet. We are waiting for the contract to be finalized, which we expect to happen sometime next month.
Okay, so that will get us to electronic and we'll speed it up?
We are hoping, yes. So we won't need a month to from application to testing period.
So it'll speed up from application to testing period. And then post-testing, what's the life cycle of post-test? You qualified, you get a job offer.
The next part would be the interview, and we work with LAPD, who's been providing us with interview panels. All these processing times can be reduced significantly if we have the test digitally, because we'll find out whether they pass or fail right away. So we expect the change to digital to significantly reduce the time between applying to being on the eligible list.
Are those live interviews or online? The panels.
They're live.
Were you thinking about speeding it up by maybe making it online? Zoom?
We can definitely work on that, yeah.
I know there's no substitute for being knee to knee with a person and understanding who they are, but can we think about that? And I heard yes, but I didn't hear 2 yeses.
Yes.
I mean, we'll work with personnel, and if they arrange them, we'll make sure that our senior PSRs are there to conduct the interviews.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's it for now. I might have another question. Members, you have a question?
Just a common question.
Go right ahead.
I'm curious, and I think about this whenever we get a lot of these reports related to, the lack of interest and being able to hire those that have an interest, but then we have all of these things in between, that give us a smaller pool at the end. And I'm curious, you mentioned that you have increased your social media as a form of outreach. I hear that you've gotten rid of a few requirements. What was it? Type certification, a pre-background, to increase the pool. But, I'm curious, where are you actually trying to go to find people that would want to have this position? And the reason why I ask is, I and my own team just hired somebody that for over 10, 13 years worked at Life Alert. So they know exactly how to be a dispatcher, right? They know exactly how to work with a person who's panicking, who just fell down, and needs someone to then connect them to you guys. Um, and I think about it all the time, like, right, like after all the years that I could potentially serve here, how easy is it going to be for me to have people on my team be able to transition into a department? And I'm curious, and I bring this up with the curiosity of where are you going to find individuals that would potentially want to have this job within the city system?
So we put together a complete recruitment plan specifically for PSRs. And part of that plan is that we're looking at putting far more dollars than we ever have before towards recruitment and outreach. And additionally, we're partnering with communication divisions. I actually have been there. I've met with their PSRs and their supervisors to better understand how can we actually get to, how can we reach out? And part of that plan is one, looking at people who formerly worked there before, who left for whatever reason. Is there opportunities there? Looking at other agencies, perhaps that, you know, we're looking at our benefits and opportunities that we offer here. What are some things that we can extend that perhaps will give some interest? And again, to really increase our presence at the different job fairs, at the different locations that will provide us opportunities to connect with those that may have an interest in this job.
And what about so are you doing anything to kind of match yourself up with where are you losing individuals in the private sector that would potentially take this on? That's my whole reason, you know, behind bringing up Life Alert.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat?
So any kind of intentional outreach to try to figure out where you're losing people into the private sector for communications?
So it has
Like,
not
who are
been.
your competitors, and are you trying to compete with your competitors for this job pool?
My experience tells me that for the most part, when we lose people, it's one because they find that this is just not their career. This is not something that they want to do. It's a very strenuous job. It causes a lot of stress for those who, you know, may not understand what they're getting into. And that's why, you know, we're looking at, again, I don't find that we're losing them. Let's see. I don't think that we're losing them for because they don't want to be here. I think we lose them more because they see other opportunities at other agencies that perhaps have a better salary, have better benefits. We have many agencies that are offering sign-in bonuses, and there are other things that are doing that are attracting them away. And so these are some things that we're looking at. How can we do things differently to perhaps get that same attention and have them come to LAPD?
Got it. So it almost sounds like this is a position that maybe whether it was intentional or not is more entry. People come into the city and then they find something better, and then that's when you lose them.
Yeah, I don't think that we lose the really seniored, and maybe Ray can speak to that, but I don't think we really lose our senior PSRs, but people that probably have, you know, just a very short time on the job that may be swayed to go somewhere else, you know, to pursue. Yeah, I know there's a agency up north that's offering like $40,000 for a PSR. I know that we lost a couple that went up north to pursue that signing bonus.
So it's related to a bonus.
Yes.
Okay, got it. What about what's it called? The quality of work there in terms of, like, do you offer mental health because you know that it's a stressful job? Like, is there other perks related to making them feel like welcome and taken care of so that they can stay there?
Yes, and that's part of our plan is to identify every opportunity that we have here at LAPD, and then we just have to do the good job of actually getting that messaging out.
Oh, got it. So you have them, they just don't know about them. That's what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, I think, yes. I think, like, for example, salary is an issue, right? But what people don't understand is that there are many agencies that may offer a better salary to start, but eventually it catches up and gets even better. And so, again, I think that's part of the messaging to help people understand that, you know, this is a good long-term opportunity. So you may get a slight advantage when you start somewhere else first, but eventually it catches up and does even better here.
Okay, and you know, I do through social media know that there's a page on behalf of the city called City Jobs. Are you posting there, or what about on your own time? Are you guys also posting on places like Indeed, where everybody's going to, things like LinkedIn?
Yes, we have We advertise in LinkedIn. We advertise definitely a lot in on Instagram and Facebook. I can't say for sure for Indeed. I need to double check on that.
Everyone goes to Indeed.
And we're probably there too, but I want to double check before I say something.
Okay.
And we make sure that 911 dispatchers is part of our joint LAPD recruitment page, where we can find people the most. We'll reach out to them.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, we
No
want
more
to
questions.
increase. I'm sorry. We want to increase our presence on our joint PSR, right? And so that's connected to our joint LAPD. So we want to increase our presence there. We want to do more when it comes to videos and just give a general idea of what it's like to be a PSR. I think we do a really good job when it comes to advertising and marketing for Sworn. And I think they're just going to follow the model that we have put in place for Sworn and do the same thing similar for PSR.
I mean, you still see in movies, glorified images of being a PSR back in the 50s.
Right.
Got to bring that glam back.
Right. I agree.
So I have a couple of questions before I turn. Oh, are you?
No, I'm done.
Thank you. Before I turn to my other colleague. So when you talk about salaries, I mean, and the idea that salaries may be lower here, but there is greater growth. We could debate that point, I suppose. But if our situation is recruitment, to recruit into these jobs, are we thinking about and recommending up through the chain of command the types of salaries that would allow us to more, to recruit and retain PSRs? And by that, I don't want to, signal and give away where I may be on another committee, but starting salaries are a great recruitment tool, or can be a disincentive. I mean, are we making those recommendations up through our chain of command to make sure that we have the types of salaries that can be competitive and it can be recruiting tools for PSRs?
So some of the things that we're looking at, we want to restructure the PSR training program specifically for our lateral hires.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that these people are senior, they're tenured, and perhaps they don't need to go through the same onboarding process as someone that was brand new. So I think that will give us a big advantage there. We were looking at also at recommending implementing a higher starting salary for the lateral hires. For example, PSR starting salary is $58,484, as opposed to example El Monte is $62,000, Inglewood is $60,000, City of Orange is $67,000, etc. So that's one thing we want to propose, that perhaps we can look at a higher starting salary. We also have put forth a proposal to implement a $15,000 hiring incentive. That would be $5,000 upon hire, $5,000 upon completing 18 months of service, and then also $5,000 after 36 months. So we're still waiting to hear back from that. And again, we have several local agencies that are offering sign-in bonuses. Pomona, Chino, Santa Rosa, Tustin, Rockville, they're all doing this for their PSR. So that would make us a little bit more competitive. We're also looking at having communications consider offering part-time dispatchers. We know that we have several dispatchers who work for LAPD that also work part-time at other agencies.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't necessarily do that in return here at, for the city of Los Angeles. So this is something that perhaps the city may consider to, number one, it gives us more personnel, but two, it gives others exposure to LAPD and perhaps can help to entice them to come over. I know that communications has worked on a compressed work schedule. We're going to recommend that perhaps they expand that a little bit further and I believe that it's only a certain group of people that are allowed to do this, and only I think they're on the 410. There are some agencies out there that are offering a 312. Again, that's something that perhaps that can be looked at. And then also, I believe that LAPD is looking at cross-training 311 call dispatchers. I think that, again, that's something else that can help us to increase the interest in the job and increase help the shortage in personnel.
Thank you. That's a good answer. I think looking at recruitment and retention salary structure, and then looking at workplace conditions, with our partners in labor on things like schedules that make life easier for folks. And I sat with the PSR a couple of months ago at a dinner, and much of our conversation revolved around scheduling and the benefits of being a senior person and having first dibs on schedules, and the disadvantage of being a rookie and not having a reliable schedule.
Right.
So those are things that will affect whether or not people come to us or stay with us.
Right.
Colleague?
Sure. Thanks so much, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you for putting this motion to look really deep into, and the numbers are always very important, very illuminating. I just want to uplift your work, Mr. Valois, for increasing the percentage. I think, given the resources you have, I think that should be recognized and commended. But I can't say the rest for this report. I feel deeply disappointed, and this is not a judgment on anybody. I feel disappointed just as a city. And I think we're asking a lot of good questions, but I mean, the report says it takes 9 months to hire somebody, right? Like that, no one's gonna wait 9 months for a job. Like people are gonna move on. But one of the things that I learned is even when folks are ready to start their PSR class, they drop this. There's still massive drop off, and that I don't know the reason for that. So, the classes beginning on November 6th had 28 hires, and now it's down to 10. That's my understanding. That almost seems a little inexcusable. Like, if people are ready to start the class and start their training, how do we have such massive drop off?
We tend to have about a 30% attrition rate in the classes. Now, that's for several reasons. One of them is the job isn't what they expected, and it's much more difficult than they expected. They're unable to qualify, it being a very, very difficult job. Some of it has been discussed here already. It has to do with working conditions. A lot of times they don't like working here downtown because parking is difficult. They've got to walk past transients in order to get to the building to begin with. That makes them uncomfortable. Once they have gotten through the training and they're on the floor, one of the issues was forced overtime. We're working on changing that. We've made a lot of strides in pre-scheduling it versus making it last minute forced. But there's a lot of reasons. Some of them are going elsewhere where it's not as busy. You think about the average amount of calls that they take in an 8-hour shift, 72 calls. That's a lot of telephone calls to take in one day. They can go to work for another agency where it's maybe very similar pay or even slightly less pay and not work nearly as hard. Some of that comes down to our deployment. Again, it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Once we get enough people and we're up to staffing, the workload won't be quite so bad.
Yeah. So when this class started, because I know the personnel plays a role, and then you take over when the class starts. It sounds like.
Yes.
So you had 28 start, and now it's down to 10.
I'd have to verify that number.
But it's a massive drop off. Is there anything that personnel could do to prepare people for that? If folks are coming in and they don't know, the job itself is very overwhelming, perhaps there's something that could be done prior to that, so they're at least sort of a little more primed, a little more pumped, like understand the job a little more. I don't put it on. To me, it's a systemic thing that needs to like in any job. If I had that much attrition rate in my staff, we wouldn't be able to function. So there's something going on. At least if they're getting there, they should be given put in a position where they can succeed. I guess that's what I'm asking. But I guess that's more for personnel, not so much for you, Captain.
Yes. So, good morning, committee. I'm Dana Brown. I am actually the general manager of the personnel department. I am not the personnel department. That's what I was going to say, but here I So I think that it's important, to your point, Mr. Soto Martinez, is that uh, when we reduce the requirements, that has kind of an impact, right, on the number of people who then just apply, even though they don't have really an understanding of the level of responsibility of this job. I think it's also important to note that even around the city, in our comparative jobs, the city of Inglewood, the city of Culver City, the job is still not the same because of the level of calls that we have, the number, just even the environment. Uh, in communications, if you've ever been down there, if you have not, I would highly recommend you take sort of a look at sort of what it looks like down there.
I did take a
Right.
tour of the facility. Yes.
And it reminds me that I don't know if this is something we'd have to work with the police department, but in knowing what they're getting into, at what point can candidates have a look at the communication center and see sort of what the environment looks like? Is this something that you think you're able to do? But the other thing that I think is important to note in terms of the time that it takes to hire people is the backgrounds process. We have a huge background process for PSRs that is very much similar to the police background. And so that, as we have trouble with sort of managing resources in order to get these backgrounds done. Now, to be fair, the police department does handle its own backgrounds for PSRs, but I know that as with anybody else, their resources are limited and the background is in depth. So if that's something that we want to kind of look at, what are we doing in backgrounds? Are we doing what's necessary? Are we doing more than what's necessary, or so forth? I think that also removing the what is the thing we remove the background thing, the pre-background questionnaire also brings in candidates that get further along than they would have, which takes up time, right? Takes up resources for people who have like disqualifying offenses or disqualifying convictions that we don't know about early on. So I think that it's kind of an amalgamation of things that put us in this position. I think it's also important to note that on our hot jobs tab on the personnel department's website, PSR is always there. We've talked about, we've made some changes recently to the name of the class continues to be PSR, but we've added 911 operator to it because that was another thing where people weren't exactly sure what it meant to be a PSR. And so I think that, like with so many other things, when we slow down hiring, in some classes, it's really a bad thing. You have to always have a group of PSRs ready to go, much like a group of police officers and other classes that we can't really afford to be understaffed. And PSR is one of those classes that, unfortunately, when we stopped hiring during the pandemic, we got behind, and now we're looking at classes of 9 and 12, which is obviously not, sufficient. It's certainly as more PSRs are retiring and, that sort of thing.
So right now it takes 9 months. Now look, when we started looking into the vacancies overall in the city, thanks to the chair here, folks came back with different ways of doing things, and now they're doing, folks show up to the thing, they get a job at the end of the day, right? I don't know how much the timeline was reduced. So here, and I know each job is different. So right now it's 9 months. Have y'all taken a look at how much we can reduce that? Like having things just like what would be the best that we can do? We're at 9 months right now.
Right. So I think that the whole process, consists of not only the personnel department, but also the police department with the background piece. I don't know. I know that the personnel division for the police department is not here, so I'm not sure if we have. They are? Okay. I'm not sure. Oh, hi, Quiet.
Because we should have a goal. Like we said during this committee and in a collaborative process, many of us here, including led by Mr. McCosker, we're like, how can we get people hired at the same day? And now it's happening. So it was a goal that was set in this committee And so if we're at 9 months right now, what could be a goal that could be accomplished? Like, what's the fastest thing we could do?
Yes. So understanding that same day is not possible with
I
PSR,
get
right?
that.
Okay.
I get that.
Okay.
I get that, and we can. I understand why, but what's the fastest we can do? Because then we can work towards that goal collectively. We can work towards that goal.
I think that probably we should have some time to sort of discuss kind of what's going on the LAPD side in terms of their preparation of a candidate versus what we're doing. You know, much to what Melissa was saying about us looking at Critical, which is a different testing system. We also talked about online interviews, those
Okay,
kinds
so
of things.
we don't know at this moment. Okay.
Correct.
Well, I hope you look at that. I mean, I'd be very curious to hear, how quickly we can cut it down. So I think the numbers will improve because of that. But I'm very supportive of putting more incentives. I mean, we put so much incentives to sworn PD. Look, if these folks aren't doing their job, the whole system is out of whack, right? This is the first response. If we don't have the first response correct, we don't have anything else correct. And in my opinion, anything that is being built off that, including the unarmed response right now, which I know is also very difficult, it's all off the table, right? And so, and LAPD Sworn has an entire department. Like, I mean, they're doing so much, and I know you're doing very little. So, but that gives me hope that we're thinking about those incentives. I'm very happy to support that because we're doing it for Sworn. Why not do it for the PSRs, right? But I'll just say in closing, like when we're out with our constituents, I mean, they complain about this. They complain about it. They complain about it. They complain about it. And a lot of folks lost their jobs in the last election cycle, right? And a lot of us were elected here to say we're going to do something very different. We want to make government that actually works for people. And nothing is more important to folks that when they call 911, they feel that their city's taking care of them. Right. And I know y'all don't hear it as much as we do, but we have to deal with the faces, the anguish, just that their city's not working. And so when we come here, or at least when I come here, we're trying to really encourage and push us to make our city better. Right. So, but I'd be waiting for how we can get from 9 months to whatever that may be. Right.
Yes.
So thanks.
Understood.
Just in closing, I just wanted to say, for the record, I'm going back to your original motion, and I noticed that in this report we do have a lot of item number 2 of this motion addressed in this report. We still have more. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see anything related to the one part. Instruct LAPD to report on council and then A, B, C, and D. I feel like this report addresses 2 A, B, C, and D. So I don't know if you guys are going to come back with that at a different time. Or am I just missing this information on here where we're finding out historical numbers of the staffing levels, how many calls received?
For 1B, C, and D,
Yeah, 1 A, B, C, and D.
it's on the first page. Should
I
have
don't think I have that page.
I can give you my copy if you like.
Okay, yeah, if you don't mind. My bad. I'll figure out why I don't have it later. But I did want to also say, I wanted to go back to where you mentioned that things kind of changed in terms of making it very clear what the job description was, right? What was a 911 operator? Thank you. Appreciate it. I think that's a very important and critical part to maybe what can help bring in a pool that is more qualified and ready to get the work done. So I just kind of want to encourage that you kind of operate from there, because if I were to dig deep into what this position is, it's almost like you're going to work for a call center, but you have to have a lot of courage. You have to have a lot of courage. You have to be a very big critical thinker, and you have to have a tough stomach. So I would just want to encourage that you operate from that space of full transparency of what you really need from somebody that is a PSR. And you've talked about how it really is a place where people enter the city and then they move up, and more power to them. But we, as discussed, this has to be something where you have to consistently keeping the pool full. And I think the best way to do that is with a true description of what is required of the job. In addition to all the creative innovation and strategic planning that you're doing to go find folks.
I just wanted to add that one of the upsides of the hiring working group is that the AFSCME representative is a PSR. And so she's
Mm-hmm.
here with us today, and she has, offered to help us with recruitment and just kind of sort of understanding the candidate pools, how to incentivize people to want to do the job, and more importantly, to make sure people do understand what they're getting into. So we're really excited for her partnership and looking forward to working with her.
Thank you. I just want to add, I too have been to the call center, and it is truly heroic work. It is. I had a knot in my stomach when I was looking up at the board and seeing the calls coming in. And when I got to put the earphones on and listen in to the calls. And I think we would all agree, everyone in this room would agree, that it is unbelievably heroic, important work. And our only goal is to work with all of you and make sure that we have enough reinforcements coming in behind, and so that these talented professionals know that they can when we all leave to our dignified retirement, we know there'll be people behind us to do this important work. And so for that purpose, I'm going to take you up on that kind offer, and I want to make an amendment that we return to this committee, I'll say within 90 days, with revisions to the recruitment, evaluation, and hiring process, with a specific goal of reducing the time from application to the entry of applicants to a class. Period. Hard stop. Second?
I will very happily second that.
Motion made and seconded. With that, unless there's further discussion, with that, I would move that as amended, we note and file the personnel and board of police commissioners reports. Is that appropriate? And that would allow us to have this come back by operation of law on its own initiative. Okay. Then I'll call the question.
All right, in that case, Councilmember McOsker,
Yes.
Councilmember Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Critically important. This is the eye of the needle. This is the whole system relies on this. Whole system. Thank you. Can we then go to item number 13? Can you read that into the record?
Very good. Item 13, continue from September 19, 2023, CEO report relative to the Gartner Inc. HRP Quality Assurance Services Monthly Report for July 2023.
I heard about this one before. I've heard of this one, and I believe we're joined by ITA, CAO, and the Controller's Office. And I appreciate you all very much. I think we know the bottom line, but let's talk about it.
Sure. So just for the record, the item is a July report, but obviously recent developments, I think, require us to give you an update on the project and the decision made by the steering committee, which is represented up here by the Controller's Office, ITA, CAO, and personnel right behind us, made a decision to delay go live of the project. As we have been reporting, our go live originally was for December of this calendar year. Yep. We have made the decision to delay until June 2024. So the first paychecks into the new system would be in July of 2024, around July 10th, I believe. So it wasn't a decision it's definitely a decision that requires some discussion, debate as to what the appropriate move was. And I'm here with my colleagues on the executive committee, Ted Ross, General Manager of ITA, Rick Cole, the Deputy Chief Controller, and with Dana Brown, General Manager of Personnel. So I think Ted's going to lead off with a kind of update on the project and where we are today.
Great. Thank you. Ed?
Thank you, Ben. Certainly implementing a modern human resources and payroll system to replace a 23-plus-year-old legacy payroll system across 42 departments and 50,000 employees was never going to be easy, especially when you look at the complexities inherent in government. The city has had to adapt to many challenges over the last 3 years, which has been the project lifecycle, including COVID. Each department faced a shift to remote and hybrid working conditions, new mandates, and new priorities. Additionally, departments across the city face the loss of experienced professionals with needed subject matter expertise and continue to navigate high rates of vacancies during the course of implementation. Yet, despite these challenges, the city has made steady progress implementing the new HR payroll system, including the implementation of the Phase 1 human resources system. The project has worked very hard to meet the December 2023 implementation date for Phase 2, but the high level of staff vacancies citywide, the complexities of payroll within each city department, and the inability to reach necessarily quality goals has meant that each of the testing phases deadlines throughout this year has slipped. Unfortunately, the HRP project is also competing with other department priorities. Most importantly, I believe as the project continues its parallel testing phase, the project has not been able to reach the required 95+% target in time to meet a December 2023 deadline. You may remember, as mentioned in this committee and in other various communications, it's critically important this parallel test phase, where you run both systems against each other to ensure that you have accurate payroll before you go live with the system. And despite making a lot of progress across a lot of departments, parallel testing must continue until the city reaches our quality control goals before launching a new system. If department testers and leadership continue to commit the staff time to the project, the June 2024 timeline is very attainable. In addition to parallel testing, there's necessary integrations and reports that remain in various stages of testing. The extension is prudent, and it provides essential time for additional department testing and preparation for the new system. We've actually heard questions and concerns from various departments. We meet with them, for most of them, twice a month, about their own readiness to process payroll. So I think it's a critically important statement. It's one thing to have a fully tested and available system. It's another thing for departments to integrate that into their business processes. There's a joke I like to make, payroll is a team sport. To process accurate payroll, you need someone to enter their time. You need to have HR configure the roles appropriately, and people need to be in the right class and the right step. You need timekeepers and time approvers to do their work. Then you require payroll to be processed. There's a long list of aspects that have to be done for payroll to work and to work well. The extension allows departments multiple rounds of training, multiple rounds of testing, practice labs to be able to get their hands on it. It's a critical loop, I think, to help them out. We've submitted a report. We have the post-go live criteria of what it would take for us to be ready and what our targets are. And then we have a series of recommendations that we've submitted through a report in which we have listed in there.
Thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sure,
Just
no.
leaning forward.
No problem.
Other comments? Or shall I begin? So if this is a team sport,
Yes, sir.
we're calling a timeout before we get a delay of game, huh? And what goes into the analysis of, I get you've given me almost enough on, not that I'm going to change your mind, on not going on December, but what goes into the analysis of December versus Q1 versus Q2 fiscal year? What's the calculus of if we miss by a day, we should miss by 6 months?
Yep. It goes into the go live criteria. So we have a series of criteria. What does it take to get to the target goals on parallel testing, and how long does that take? There's aspects around integrations, reports. How long will that take? So there's very much a detailed listing of here's the key items that need to be ready before go live, and then a hard conversation among the different teams, including advice from KPMG, Workday, Accenture, et cetera, on our ability to be able to deliver on those timelines and the timing required. So it is more of a hard math than it sounds, because we have very key items and a very critical assessment of where we stand.
Yeah.
Mr. McCosker, as you noted, the best time to go is at a quarter. And so first quarter and second quarter were our two choices. If we lived in an ideal world, I'm confident that we could have made the first quarter. As your recent conversation while we were waiting indicates, we do not live in an ideal world. If this were the city's #1 priority, if we had fully staffed payroll functions in all of our departments, if this wasn't a project that has had struggles from the beginning, then we could have made March the 1st.
Yeah.
But it is important, we think, to set reasonable expectations based upon the capacity of this city and then to deliver on them in an effective way. And it would not serve the city to set one more unrealistic goal line and then miss it. We are really confident that if we have the continued effort of all the departments, and I want to, again, as I have before, pay particular acknowledgement of the leadership of Ted Ross. His personal leadership as general manager of ITA has been very important to us getting as close as we did to the December 31st go live. But we were not going to make it. We would have faced very serious risks. And with this 6 months delay and the continued collaboration of all 4 departments and all 5 private sector divisions and all 30-some departments that are involved, we will make the fiscal year. There are some positives with doing the fiscal year from the standpoint of work, but it is still a challenge, and it's going to take all of us working together to achieve it.
Is this just a matter of time? Is the 6 months the only thing that we're going to change, or will we do something differently in these 6 months to further ensure that we meet the goal?
Ted, let me take a first crack at this. I think that's a very perceptive question, and I think we've given it a great deal of thought. We have been on a dead run for the last 12 months trying to make the December 31st go live, and that has meant, frankly, streamlining some of the important parts of this project in a way that we are now able to go back and readdress. Not starting over again, not weighting this project down with a lot of new bells and whistles, but just ensuring that all of the pieces, as Ted has said, fit together at the end of the day.
A couple key aspects. First of all, if we extend time but then we add scope, we put ourselves right back in the same situation. We give ourselves more time, but then we load ourselves with more work, and then we create risk associated with that. So in an ideal world, you're giving yourself some additional time, enough time to be able to get the work done and to make it happen. To Rick's point, there are key areas that we're making sure we confirm, areas that give departments concerns, areas that we want to make sure that we've thoroughly tested, once, twice, 3 times, etc. But I think, the long story short, this has been a learning project. When we entered into a test phase, as you may remember some of the previous conversations around end-to-end testing, we would enter, we'd expect departments to perform X, Y, and Z. Those departments may not perform it. So we pick up phones, we call, we bring folks in, we offer them lunch, we do a whole long list of things. So we're always adapting. So I think a key answer to it is, I feel confident, and others can weigh in if they disagree. I feel confident that we know what it takes to complete all of the remaining items.
Do we? You want to go?
When you can go first.
I probably just have 2 more. So we have a structure. This structure. Are we confident in the structure of having of who is at the table? Is this kind of who's in charge? Tell me about the leadership. Yes. Tell me about the leadership structure of bringing this ship in 6 months, and then I'm going to ask about the consultants.
Great question.
Who's in charge?
So it really is a committee of 4. We have the executive sponsors represented here by our departments, respective departments, and so there definitely are some positives and some negatives that come along with that, because it's always been from day one a committee of where we need to reach consensus. It's not a 3 versus 1 or 2 versus 2. We have to come to consensus, and that requires discussion, deliberation, analysis, so that we all can come to an agreement on what's the best path forward for this project. And that, has resulted in some delay with respect to getting to an answer, getting to a decision point. So that has caused some delays with the project because, again, we're trying to get to a consensus and move the project forward. But I want to say that, once we get that consensus and move the project, and as we did with this decision, we're all behind it. We stand behind it, and we put our resources from our respective departments to get to the goal.
So going back to the sports analogy, if it is a team sport, if somebody doesn't call for the ball, it's going to fall in left center and be a double. Who's in charge? What's the structure?
Well, the structure is, ITA has been a lead with regard to kind of the day-to-day operations of the project. The controller staff has a majority of the work now with regard to the payroll component. The CAO has another part of the job with regard to compensation, and also with recent changes to MOUs and making sure those go to get configured into the system. And then personnel was in essence the lead over phase one with regard to the HR. So it is we do have our unique roles, but I want to echo what Rick said. Ted has been really a leader and a facilitator of this group, so I want to commend him for that.
Is it fair to say that ITA is in the lead, and when this is done, you hand it over to controller, and controller has to implement it? Good, thank you.
No.
I hate a meeting where everyone just says yes, but what's the structure?
So it's not an ideal structure, Mr. Chairman, and I think we all recognize that. It is the structure that we inherited. And we had a mayor's transition. The mayor's office would have been helpful to have a bigger part in this. The fact that we switched from ITA being this project lead to KPMG, stepping into the project manager role a year ago, 9 months ago, means that there's some ambiguity about who's really in charge. So what I think we can assure the three members of this committee is that we have understood the problems with the structure, and we have overcome them by sheer force of personal commitment of the four people that you see sitting here. The structure remains the same, but the four people sitting up here, as Ben has just said, are committed to working together. So in direct answer to your question, KPMG and ITA are taking the lead in sort of driving the day-to-day project management. But the controller's office is very deeply involved. We're going to spend half a day tomorrow with KPMG and ITA to make sure we're exactly on the same page moving forward. We candidly have had some frustrations that the project was moving so quickly that there might be some real strain on the controller's office in terms of workarounds once we hit.
Yeah.
So that's a change. Is as I said, we're not going to expand the scope of work, but we're going to dot some more I's and cross some more T's, so that when July comes, we really feel confident that the vast majority of people will get accurate checks, and that the handful of people that don't get accurate checks, because there's always problems, will get prompt recompense and to be put straight, because we don't want anyone missing their mortgage payments or their rent payments. We don't want anybody racking up thousands of dollars of back pay owed to the city. We want to get it right. We want to get it quickly, and that's what we're working on.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, that was a great question. I think it answered a lot of what I was kind of trying to figure out. Because what I'm hearing, and I hear that it's a test and learning project. I wanted to hear that you guys are operating from the perspective of, we got to make this happen, right? We have to make this happen. And it sounds like there's an issue from cooperation of departments. And I think I asked about that last time I was here. Who's not being cooperative? Who would be able to give you more of the information that you need to make these tests more accurate, more efficient, so that you can find those answers related to making it happen? So, we also need you guys to be very honest about what you need from us. We're the individuals that can make motions to get people to get to work.
Sure.
But I feel like no one's being transparent, because I got to be honest, I almost get the impression that not all of you guys want this and are just trying to figure it out. But the thing is, we have to make this happen. This is the future. Centralization of data and information is key to really being able to understand how to fill a lot of our vacancies. And I know that, and I keep hearing that we have this, and naturally, this fear of what will happen to payroll. But there's a lot of other things that we also need to be discussing. I didn't go through a very good transition with my own team coming into the city with a lot of issues with people not knowing that they had to go into workday and make choices and therefore had a mess with their benefits. And then when I brought it up to human resources, I was very vocal about no one knows that this is happening because you're not even utilizing the tools that you do have, like sending massive emails related to the transition. And I'm proud to see that now finally we're starting to get emails related to these videos on showing people how to access this. So it looks like there's been work, but there's just not enough communication related to how we're going to get this done. And I get it, payroll is important, but it's everything related to the transition of becoming an employee. So what else do you need in terms of the cooperation internally to get this done by summer?
With respect, the collaboration is not willful. It's not that departments don't want to help. It's that they have very stretched resources and they have to get their payroll out. They have to handle their personnel transactions. And so what we find is that we say, we want you to divert resources from the other things that you're doing,
Okay,
which you
let's
and the
make
council.
it more layman's terms.
Mhm.
Are you telling me that we're having a hard time telling the departments, pull one person out of your team to the side, make them dedicate about 1 to 2 to maybe a week of time to figure this out, to give the system what it needs so we can properly test? Is that what's happening? We're
No.
just so overworked.
No,
We can't pull resources
it's that
internally.
we've been asking for those resources for a full year of testing, and that is a big strain on the departments. If we were asking them for a day or a week, which we have, they have been cooperative, but we have had to ask them over and over and over again. And if they had the staff, they could divert it. But some of them literally have blank spaces. I think you've been dealing with this issue of vacancies. There's literally no one there to do the regular work, let alone divert them away from it. Now, with this amount of time, we can plan better. We were on, again, a dead run. And when you're on a dead run, you don't give the departments enough notice about what's coming next. So that's going to be helpful to us to give them the notice so that they can allocate those scarce resources. But
So-
there's a lot of strain on these departments and a lot of turnover, even in new people. Even when you fill a job, the person still has to get trained in that department's particular needs. And the person who left that job 6 months ago because it took 6 months to fill the job. And so there isn't someone to train that new person because that person is gone. So these are some of the real world challenges. No one at this table, let me assure you, wants this to go on a day longer than it needs to. We want this project done. We've been working as a team to get the project done. What we don't want to do is get headlines from all of you or for all of you that the city has paid somebody $1 million in the last payroll. Those headlines happened at LAUSD within recent memory. Those headlines have happened in 2 different workday projects in other states. We are going to avoid not just the headlines, but the real world impact to our city staff when they don't get paid right.
So you mentioned you would need them for a total of a year to dedicate fully to this. Is your new plan for the next 6 months more intentional with that sort of resource allocation?
I believe it is.
In
Ted,
the-
you want to address that?
Yes, it absolutely is. So what we have from now through go live is there's training components, then we've got testing components that impact the departments. On the testing side of it, the strength to parallel testing is not every department needs to engage on it. The departments that have a significant difference that you're not able to resolve centrally, they're not able to resolve systematically. You have to meet with key payroll liaisons. We'll do it off payroll weeks. One of the challenges of payroll is that there's 1 week where they're very busy, another week where they're less busy. So you have to take the time when they're less busy to do the work. And so you work with them off payroll week to dive in there and make great progress. A great example is LAPD. They're percent inaccuracy between the two systems was low. They sat down with the project team within a week or so. It got very high. They did a fantastic job meeting with the team, working through items, etc. This has to be done across all the departments. There's, a list of departments who aren't at the percent that they need to be. Then we're going to roll out of this cycle into another cycle. We take another pay period. We expect the results to be, we're hoping, good, but we'll see what the results show up as. And anything that's missing, we work with that department to go ahead and do another deep dive. So I feel like at this point in the project, it's a known variable. That level of effort, the type of work, et cetera. And I think that is a great benefit as compared to a year ago when you had 6, 7, 12 different phases that all had to be done between now and then. There starts to become unknowns in that situation.
Got it. Thank you. That's very helpful. I'm done.
And I think it's important, council members, and this is something that we've touched on a couple times in my appearances before you. The city is running on bald tires. We have not invested the time, money, resources, training to do all of the things that the 4 million people in our city expect: to fix our sidewalks, to dispatch our 911 calls, to switch our payroll system to a modern system. And at some point, we can't keep pushing the car to go faster and faster on bald tires. At some point, we have to pull the car over and put new tires on it. And so at budget time, it's going to be very difficult next year. You're not going to want to reduce frontline services in order to invest in the organization's capacity, because frontline services are what get attention. But the systematic disinvestment in the back end of this city is what your new staff encountered. It's not that people are stupid, incompetent, or lazy.
I never said that.
No.
For the record.
Except for the council members.
No, I mean for the public. I think the public needs to hear this. It's not that the people who work for this city are not great people.
Yeah.
It is that they have been asked to do without training, without technology, without facilities adequate for 21st century government. And we can deliver high quality services. We can do projects on time, but we have to invest in the capacity of the organization. And that is very difficult at budget time. There are whole departments in this city whose training budget is zero.
Before I turn to my colleague, I'm going to belabor it because, you went from sports teams to now cars. I'm going to go back to the analogy. We have a goal line stand with 10 people on the field, which is a painful memory as a Notre Dame fan. Go ahead.
All right, so we're going into overtime, right? On
Yep.
this project. All right. I was I've been on this committee since I was here, since I won my election. So I was really hopeful we would get to December, but alas, we have not, right? But I do want to recognize the work that everyone's put into this, right? And it's good to see. It's kind of cool to see the evolution of what are we doing, and then okay, now we have a plan and we're collaborating. I just have one question: how much money and where does that put us over budget? Because I remember Mr. Cole kept mentioning 40 million, I think, before. So where are we going to end up if all goes right? How much over budget? How much additional, and where's the total going to be?
How much additional would be about $11 million?
11 million.
What does that put? Do you know the total offhand?
I think that the two recent delays that we've had, one was back from making the decision to move from December 22 to December 23. That was about $30 million. And now this additional 6 months is about $11 million. So that's on top of the original plan, which the number escapes me at this point. So it definitely has been a large investment by the city. But as we have been stating, we want to get it right. We want to get it right. We want to avoid those headlines, and we want to make sure that the people that expect those paychecks every 2 weeks are getting what they know they have earned.
Sure. No, we want to get it right. I just, it's we have to go answer to our constituents, right? We're elected members, so we gotta be able to explain it. And I want to know because I have some parts of my district that or some people who are, this is what they care about. And frankly, I do too. I don't think we should be, being $40 million over budget. I don't think anybody wants that. So I just wanted to know. Yeah, that's my only question. But, hopefully we can get it done in next year.
That's a great line of questioning, and not something that we would directly approve in this committee. But over what consultants would get that 11 million bucks? Because we're not talking about. I mean, this is also going to be added cost to our personnel, which is, the time and the energy and the expense, and asking, employed, whatever, asking departments short on personnel to do this work for the next 6 months. There's a cost there, but where's the 11 million going generally?
Sure. And that 11 million is effectively a straight extension. So Workday and Accenture have a portion of that for the implementation, for the licenses, for the software, for the additional training, et cetera. KPMG has it around the project management work they've been doing, as well as an extension on facilitating the parallel test. That's one thing that got learned in previous test cycles. So we have a consulting group that literally is moving the needle consistently with departments and others. Gartner, from a QA perspective, for the quality assurance that they provide, there's no increase when it comes to any of these services, but an extension of those services.
It's a straight line basically on a retention.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
It's
so
extending it from a December to a June timeframe for the same services.
so the number of consultants may or may not be right. I don't know. I'm not qualified or equipped to answer that question, but that was our choice to hire consultants.
Yes.
So we have a number of consultants, and I sort of get that, and I don't think it's right for this committee. But I do think in this committee, the Workday question is ripe. So Workday is Workday in the room?
I don't believe so, no.
Well,
Just start coming.
that's one problem.
Okay.
So
I'm sure they're more than happy to come.
I want to investigate the share of the pain that Workday needs to share. How much of the pain, how much of this is Workday's responsibility? That's not a question, that's rhetorical. I mean, it's not a question for today. How much of this is Workday's fault? How much of it is our fault? And I think that there is a question to be answered here, whether or not we're paying Workday over the next 6 months because of this delay. That's just Councilmember McCosker talking, and probably not to be resolved in this committee, but it certainly should be raised in this committee. So if you're out there, Workday, get ready.
This is a Google platform, is it not?
It's separate from Google. Yeah, it's Workday, so it's their own proprietary software.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's more compatible to it.
Yes, it's got compatibilities with software like Google, et cetera.
Because we have two choices: go live in December and underpay, overpay people, and we haven't even talked about the liability that comes with underpaying. You don't pay somebody on time, rightfully, that person has claims to damages, and the damages are exponential, and they should be, because it's real. People miss a car payment, they miss their, the payment on their kids' braces, miss their house payment, miss their rent. It's real. And so that is a problem we are avoiding. And to avoid that problem, we're spending $11 million. And I think Workday and maybe others need to answer for that. So I'm not going to amend the motion, but I think that this becomes a topic of conversation in this room and in other rooms. Any other questions, guys? Comments? I move we note and file the report. Please tally the vote.
Councilmember McCosker,
Yes.
Councilmember Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Yes.
Very good. Matters note and file.
Thank you for all your work. I really, really, really appreciate the professionalism and the hard work. And I get that we inherited this this structure, and I really, really appreciate how hard you're all working and how well you're all working together to get us here. And I do know it is painful as a leader to say we're not going to make it. Let's do the right thing. And so I admire that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other business before us?
No, that clears the desk.
All right. Our desk is clear. We are adjourned. How long before you think Workday gives a call? How long before Workday gives a phone call?